This is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. It is brought to you at this time on this radio station every Saturday morning at 8:30 by Independent Bank. My co-host is Katie Huckle. Next week, no, not next week, 2 weeks will be our 5th anniversary show here on 107.9 CDY, and I don't know where the time went.
Oh my gosh, we've had so much fun.
We've talked to just about everyone in town.
It feels like we talked to everybody.
And there are a few people we haven't got to yet, so maybe in 2025, if you're listening, if we haven't talked to you yet, we'll find our way to you.
We'll find you.
But we've got second-time guests with us this morning.
Absolutely. We have two really important members of Cadillac clergy in the house. We have Pastor Scott Torkko, and we have Pastor, and sometimes we call him Preacher, Jayson Godsey. Welcome, fellas.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We were talking, Rich and I, as we headed into the Christmas zone here, about who we should be talking to. And we've got a Christmas market. So we talked to Mary Galvanic about her Christmas market downtown, which is something new. But then, of course, we loop back around to Christmas. And here we are headed into the week of Christmas. And I said, Rich, let's bring the pastors on and let's talk about the Cadillac community and how we make people feel welcome to the church during the Christmas season. And so you guys, you've got big flocks, both of you. And so I know you want to make the folks that are coming just feel inspired. But I know both of you guys, and I know you want to bring more folks into your churches. And so I just wanted to talk to you about how you do that and how it's going.
Okay. They will look at each other and try to determine who's going to go first.
Yeah, who's going first? That's right.
So you want to know kind of how we're welcoming people?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Lutherans have been known not to be great evangelists. We've sometimes been called the frozen chosen. And we own that. We're all right with that. But what we do quietly and kindly and graciously is provide a presence. And oftentimes we Lutherans tell the story by the lives we lead, as much, maybe more than the words we speak, which we could use some work on sometimes. So the goal is always just to be a gracious, kind place that wraps our arms around people. We have people who, of course, invite their neighbors and family to come to worship. I encourage the congregation to do that for Christmas. If they knew someone that didn't have a place to be, to invite them to hear the Christmas story with us at Zion this year, if they'd be willing to do that. So really, I mean, grace is the big word for all of us, and I think Lutherans get really crazy and radical about it. And so that's what we try to do, just be this gracious, welcoming presence. People can come; they don't have to they don't have a job right when they get there, and we always say, not only is no an important word, it's a necessary word. We want you to do things that you find important and that speak to your soul and how God has created you. So pretty low intensity, like trying not to put people in a corner or something like that, but just be this gracious, welcoming place. So that's what we try to do and how we try to be.
Thanks so much, Scott.
You know what's tremendous about that, Pastor Scott, is when you said that, I hadn't thought about that before, and I don't necessarily think of you folks that way, but we're sort of the other side of the spectrum. As soon as you said that, I thought to myself, yeah, that's exactly the opposite of us, and yet the goal is the same goal.
That's right.
We as Baptists, and me as an evangelist for years, we tend to be those that are aggressively reaching out to people. Of course, we run our buses and get people to church any way we can. But again, the key is exactly what you said, grace. And ultimately, we want folks to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and that they can begin, whether that be at your church or at Faith Baptist Church. When you were saying is frozen, the frozen chosen, again, I thought that's classic. Now, us, we sometimes, instead of by our lives we would start with our lips,
Sure.
but it has to be backed up by our lives, or else we're hypocrites.
You got to start somewhere.
Right. So you would start with your lives and go to
That's
your
right.
lips. I'd start with our lips and go to our lives, and both of us want to make both of them
That's right.
Christ-like.
Amen. That's awesome.
We got the whole
you guys.
kingdom right here in this room today.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the service itself. When are your services? Christmas Eve? Is it candlelit? What can people expect if they attend Zion Lutheran or Faith Baptist during the Christmas season here?
Well, we would have, of course, we have our Sunday morning services, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And then Christmas, we'll have a Christmas Eve service at 7 o'clock, more candlelit service there if folks are able to come out. For that, we would certainly, we just finished up a cantata here last Sunday, and that was tremendous, and we had a great response to that.
Okay. Scott, how about you?
Yeah, so our services are 5:30 and 7:30 on Christmas Eve. We found that that's a good timing because about the same amount of people come to each one. And so they're full services, but not one packed and one a little less packed. So 5:30 and 7:30 is when our worship service is. Traditional Christmas hymns, the choir will sing, and it's the time. So just before I read the gospel reading each Sunday, there's a difference on Christmas Eve. There's a depth to the silence of awaiting the story that is not known any other time during the year. There's just this deep silence, and it happens every year, and it always surprises me. Just before I read, I sense it and I feel it, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a sense of reverence, right?
Yes.
And it's unlike any other time of any other service of the year.
Correct, 100%. Yeah, that's right.
Wow. Can we talk a little bit about what it's like in your personal lives? Because it feels to me like for you, they're going, what personal life? It feels like your personal lives, your families for a minute, get put on hold. Can you tell us about how you segue from, okay, we got through all these services. It's the most important time for the church of the year, I would say, birth of Jesus Christ. So then how do you celebrate Christmas with your family? Because you're probably exhausted.
Well, for at least for me, and I'm sure you're very similar as you still have family at home, we as a family, this is what we do. This is part of our life.
Okay.
I mean, we enjoy serving together. My daughter is home from college. She'll play, and my other daughters will play piano. They'll sing. My wife may sing. And so really, it is part of our life. I don't separate ministry from my life. I know there are times that we'll have Christmas, and we may have to adjust those because of services. But this is really what we do together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and so we'll take it easy Christmas morning. We don't go anywhere. We kind of just hang around home. I'm usually pretty tired, and Lindsay's come to respect that, and I appreciate that she respects that. And so we usually just do Christmas at home, and we see other family later in the week or the following week as New Year's comes. So yeah, and then Christmas Eve, Lindsay always makes some sort of meal. It used to be potato soup, used to be the thing they did in her family, but just as a tradition, that's how we gather around Christmas Eve before I head off to church that night.
Okay.
Can you speak as husbands of spouses? When you signed up for this line of work, you are being shared by many people. So how does that work out?
They're both looking at each other, smiling.
Yeah. So the congregation that I'm a part of at Zion is very respectful of me and my time. We have 3 kids, and one of them is 3. Our COVID surprise, I call her.
Wow.
But people are just so kind. That grace word comes to mind again. Just so gracious about making sure that they're respectful and of our time. And when they need me, I'm there. But if they don't need me, they understand that I have other places to be as well. So I'm just blessed to be part of a really gracious, kind, caring place.
Okay.
And I think it's setting boundaries. We very much There's a time when I'm at church that sometimes my family, they know that I have to be there. They know that there are certain things that they'll sacrifice. At the same time, there's time that we have for those. I hear often work-life balance, and I look at it a little bit differently. It's what is my priority? I want to give 100% when I'm at church to church, and then when we call away, we're at home, it's 100% to my family, and I'll shut the phone off and just spend time with them.
Okay, great. Can we talk about outreach? There are folks that haven't been to church in a minute. And
there are some people who only go this week.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And hopefully they do go this week.
That's right. And then there are, my grandma ran a Christian Bible camp. My grandma and grandpa did. And she knew who was in church and who wasn't. I will tell you that. And so for folks that worry, will they be judged because they only go to church once a year? What would you tell those people?
Will they be judged if they come to church just once a year?
Yeah.
Oh, no, right? Like we're, again, that's part of the gracious place that we are. I actually had a member, he's now passed away, but he said, Pastor, I'll be here every Sunday, but you don't need me on Easter and Christmas. So I will not be there those days, but any other time I will be there. He didn't like the crowds, I think.
Oh, isn't that funny?
Isn't that interesting? But yeah, so we just try to follow up with folks if they worship with us, and it's a low pressure sort of thing and check in with them. But really, it's deeply relational. Those are the people we tend to receive at Zion, are those who have a relationship with someone in our congregation and who find their way to Zion. So it's very relational where I'm at.
Okay.
About this time of year, I've had a number of folks reach out to me and just saying just that. It's been a year, and I don't know where the year's gone, and I feel stuck. I feel I just, something is missing, and I think it has something to do with church and something to do with Christ. But as you folks said, I haven't been in a long time, preacher. I think the building might fall down if I came inside. And what we want to say to you is, we want to say to you is find your way. You find your way. There's something, again, there is something special about Christmas in the house of God, and a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And so maybe this is the service where you begin that relationship. Maybe this is the service that you begin again a relationship that somewhere you got off track and you want to get back on track. And so we would absolutely just say, come on back, and nobody's going to judge you. In fact, if anything, they're going to be happy that you're there.
Okay, very good.
And that's the Christmas story, really, right? So you got the Gospel of Luke presents it with naming these two powerful empire people, Quirinius and Augustus, and then the word of the Lord, or the birth of Jesus, comes on the road to these two otherwise insignificant people who are just doing the best they can day by day, right? So it's not like this big, powerful lightning bolt. A lot of times, God shows up in like these small, out-of-the-way places in sort of insignificant lives that might feel insignificant, but God makes them significant again. It's the Christmas story. I mean, it's the small step that God is in the midst of. Yeah.
You guys do so much, I would say, counseling that's almost unintentional. People come and talk to you about an issue or a problem and trust you. And there are those of us kind of believers, but we know that there are folks out there hurting and we don't really know what to do, And so what would you tell, because we talk about depression and anxiety during the holidays, especially depression. So what should we be doing as good humans for folks that, maybe they're shut in, or, I have a neighbor that lives in her camper, so today I brought her a platter of cookies. I mean, you just wonder, what are we supposed to be doing in terms of outreach for those folks?
I mean, I think you named it, Katie, and you're doing it. Yeah. The kindness is so important. And I've found myself since COVID and elections, and there's a lot of people right on the edge. I've noticed it in my driving especially. Hopefully it's not my driving that's doing it, right. But there's a lot of people right on the edge. And I think just those maybe small or large moments of kindness and grace that are offered, I mean, that's what Jesus calls us to be. He was with a lot of people on the edge and always seemingly providing grace, especially to those who are right on the edge of things. So I think that I think we can't underestimate those moments of kindness and grace that we offer people.
I think that's exactly it. So initiate, get out and go to those folks. That's the story of Christmas. It's the story of hope. God commendeth his love towards us, and while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. That in this dark world, the Bible, the Old Testament had closed 400 years. There's silence, if you would. And then into this dark, depraved world comes the Son of God to be born to give us hope. And so little kindnesses where you reach out to folks, extending hope. And I often say this to folks, sometimes when we feel like all hope is gone, help is on the way. And we saw that there, again, the Bible had been, the Old Testament had closed. There had been 400 years of silence. It's dark. We don't hear from God. And what's going on? And here comes help in the form of a little baby that obviously the Son of God. And so I would say continue to do that, pray for them, and just wrap your arms around them. You love them. Sometimes it's just that. You know what? I love you, and we're here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about those moments in the grocery store where somebody doesn't have enough money, or what do you do in a situation like that? Would you say step up?
Yeah. Well, the funny story here recently, and I was with my wife and my secretary, and I brought them out because they were buying something for the church. And whenever we buy something for the church, it's one of those situations where the color and the brand and all that stuff that I don't care about matters to everybody else. So I said, I'm not going to deal with this. Secretary, you're coming. Wife, you're coming, and it's going to be fine if those two are happy. And so we were in the truck, and I said, you guys behave so well. And I didn't have to stay here. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to buy a bag of coffee, and so get one of your frou-frou drinks. And we went through one of those things, and I noticed some folks behind me. I said, being the good preacher, I said, hey, ma'am, listen, whoever's behind me, what do they have? I just want to take care of it. And they said, well, that'll be 35. I'm looking. I said, there's only two people back there. Did they buy the whole office?
Oh, I know where they were.
And you know what? And so it was one of those things that I've found in that I used to go in when I went into the jails. I would go into a particular coffee and I'd say, listen, whoever's here, let me buy their coffee for them. And it got to be something that I think folks started to know I was there, so show up at the same time. But I had someone say, you know what, here's the deal, preacher, it went on. Folks said, hey, I'll buy the coffee for someone behind me. That kindness spreads. When somebody does something kind for you or loving, you just feel like, I ought to do that as well. And so absolutely, I would say, find little ways to do and to extend kindnesses to people.
Do you know how it feels to have the person in the car in front of you buy for you? It's like a stone on a lake, and it ripples out. And I've had that happen to me, and I've paid for the person behind me, and it's just that those are the kinds of things. They're little, but they make a day. They make a week. They might even make a month. Yeah.
You're not expecting it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kindness is really what it's all about. Especially now, there's just so much strife and so many angry people in the world. Kindness will bring us all together.
Oh, amen. Kindness and love, absolutely. Can we talk about Christmas traditions? Something that you do at your house every year that you just have to do, or your family's going to say, wait a minute, it's not Christmas. What would that be?
And I'm not very good at traditions in our house. Lindsay does the tradition stuff, like make sure the tree is up. I put lights on it usually every year.
Okay.
Our kids appreciate that. And there is something beautiful about a dark room with a lit tree. And Jesus is the light of the world, right? But as for traditions, that's really Lindsay's spot in our relationship.
Right. In our home, as far as traditions go, we cut a tree down every year. We go as a family, we cut a tree down. I take the chainsaw and just go out into the field and we cut one down, and the girls always decorate it. My wife buys, she does a couple of things. She sews, and so she sews the girls a pair of Christmas pajamas every single year, gives them a new Christmas ornament every single year, and then prime rib every Christmas.
What?
We prime rib every Christmas.
Well, I'll see
And
you at
so
your house.
that's mine, right?
That's
we don't
well
need
done.
ham, we don't need turkey. Prime rib every.
I love it.
Is there a certain way you like it prepared?
There is, and I wouldn't understand. I don't know anything about it. I know
He knows what he wants.
Right. I know my wife has a way that she does it. She puts it in. She puts whatever on it. She puts it in the oven for so long it comes out, and it needs to be medium rare, almost rare. I mean, I like it absolutely, and. You can't eat, maybe your steak's a little bit more, but not prime rib. It has to be, and all the girls make something, whether it be a mashed potato or a green bean casserole or a pie or this or that, and I don't know about any of that stuff because I just eat meat.
Okay, so do you have the horseradish sauce? Do you have that?
We do.
Oh,
we do.
my
Absolutely.
gosh. You are speaking my language
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
How about you for Christmas?
Oh, I'm a ham kind of guy. Yeah, that's probably what we'll do again this year.
Ooh, yum.
And green bean casserole. I am a little bit more about the side dishes than Pastor Godsey is.
Here's what's
The rest of my family is.
So I'm Norwegian, and so on Christmas Eve we have oyster stew. And you go along with these traditions, and they become kind of rote. This is what we do. Just going through the motions, whatever. But oyster stew is very easy to prepare. But because it was kind of a once a year thing, I think people thought it was harder than what it really is. But I didn't realize that it'd become like a comfort food until one of my kids was getting wisdom teeth pulled, and she said. Okay, I'm like, okay, let's be thinking about foods that we can eat. Jell-O, this kind of pudding. And she said, yep, and I'm going to have some oyster stew. And I thought, boom, these things matter. They're tucked back in there somewhere. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's no problem. She goes, do you have all the stuff? I said, it'll just take a minute because, again, it's very easy. But, yeah, oyster stew the night before because typically moms are busy with all the things that you're doing on Christmas Eve, wink, wink. And so, yeah, that was an easy dish to serve. And we typically were at church on Christmas Eve. That was kind of, how we did it.
Well, that brings up a question for these guys from me. So do you have any childhood traditions that have followed their way into adulthood for you? Either one of you? Something that happened typically and that you just carried on to the next generation? I'm not seeing a big response from either one of these guys.
Torko's smiling. He's got
Okay.
I don't know if I have anything. I'm smiling because I feel so empty at the moment.
Of course, you don't. I was raised in the inner city of Detroit. My mom was 17 when she had me.
Incredible.
And then 19 with my sister. She raised us alone, and so we were the church. We were usually the folks that the poor people at church gave to.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and we always had great Christmas, but I don't ever remember anything that we've kind of carried on, except just that our family, which is very small, we always seem to be together.
Okay.
Important. Rich, we, growing up, did a Christmas pageant. And when we started marrying off, that was quite alarming to the folks that we brought in because they were going to play a role in this Christmas pageant. And we sing a song in South Dakota, and I'm sure lots of people know this song, but it's The Friendly Beasts. And so it's all the animals that were there in the main, in the stable with Jesus. So it's I said the dove from the rafters high, I cooed him to sleep, my maid and I said the sheep with the curly horns. I gave him my blanket on Christmas morn.
You are. I've never heard of this.
I said the donkey shaggy and brown. I carried his mother uphill and down. Right.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean it. And so we all would pick. All the ladies, all the females would pick an animal. And my sister Mary is not a singer, And and now we're in our 20s with this, and we've been doing this since we were little girls. And I started giggling when she started, and I looked at her twin, and then we both got the giggles, and then the song stopped, and the not nice Christmas words were said between these sisters. You always made fun of my singing. It was like that. But you shouldn't you shouldn't tease your sister when she's singing the Christmas pageant.
But you remember this story like it was yesterday.
Right.
And that says a lot.
Well, it's guilt. Yeah, but it's such a beautiful song because there's more animals. I'm not remembering all of them, but the cow that gave up the manger. That was a big one too. So every year when I get out my nativity, I sing the song. Because I get out the cow and I get out the sheep and I get out the dove and I get out the angel and all the pieces.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
The songs are part of the season, right?
Right.
I mean, yes, and you remember them.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's part of what makes, I think, one of the things that makes worship really important and impactful on Christmas Eve as we sing the story. And if you think about the early chapters in Luke again, where I am with the birth of Jesus, there's in your Bible you might see it kind of indented, and the prophecy of Zechariah. It's poetry. It's sung. It can be sung, right? And Mary's great song, the Magnificat. This season is meant to be sung. So I think it's cool that's how you remember the season, right? Is with the songs of your family.
I just thought I didn't want any one of the. I said the cow. I thought
you didn't want to be the cow.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you didn't want to look at a female in your family and say they should be the cow.
Which?
Okay, so I just remembered I said the cow all white and red. I gave him my manger for a bed. I gave him my hay to pillow his head. I said the cow all white and red.
I've never heard that.
I haven't either.
I have not either.
Fantastic.
Well, look it up, fellas. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Is that a Norwegian traditional song?
I don't know. I think it's from a little church,
Okay.
and it's probably in Minnesota or something like that. But that was on the list, and of course, it was the night before Christmas. We went, and then of course the story of the wise men and all that was read from the Bible. That's just a really important part of Christmas Eve. Because I brought these guys platters of Christmas cookies for their families, I have a question, because I'm not going to ask Pastor Godsey about his favorite Christmas song because his wife plays Christmas carols all year long. So I want to know, what's your favorite Christmas cookie?
Lindsay makes these fantastic ginger chocolate cookies, and I ask for them every year. Yeah, they have a little zing to them, but they're sweet. Yeah, I love it. But I always say, I don't know why anyone did anything to the besides the chocolate chip cookie. Like, I just think that's a pretty good cookie.
That's
I don't know
like
why
a
we
true
thought we
guy.
could improve on it, actually.
I don't want to say anything in particular. We just, after our cantata, we always have a cookie fellowship. So I've just eaten hundreds and hundreds of cookies.
So we have an
And
expert
so
here.
right now, I don't want to even think about a cookie again. And if I name one, somebody in the congregation is going to get mad and will probably come join your church. And
You've eaten so many, the flavors
They're
all run
all-
together.
yeah.
You know what?
Tastes the same.
I've been out for lunch with this man many times, and he's got to go to. I mean, you heard about the prime rib. I'm thinking it's a Russian tea cake. That's what I'm just, or a cornflake wreath or something like that.
No comment.
No comment. Okay, so as we look to 2025, what advice would you give us, to be soldiers of hope and to stay positive? What would you tell us?
Good question.
I think for me, I'm always these days trying to turn the temperature down. Okay. I have been, so here, I'll give you an example. I have been a lifelong Michigan State fan. I have despised the University of Michigan my whole life. and I have been very outspoken about that. And in the last 2 years, I've decided that's not helping anything, right? And it's funny, but it's true. I feel like there are so many of us who are so adversarial at the moment, and I just think I'm not going to be that anymore. So for me, that's how I've been trying to operate. And Michigan State, it's a funny one, but the conversations sometimes get a little rugged in the circles where I run.
Yeah.
And on Facebook, people are kind of nasty about it, and I just thought I don't need to participate in that the same way anymore. So for me, and this is kind of part of who I am, I just feel like bringing the temperature down, being able to listen kindly and speak kindly about whatever it is that is close to our hearts, and be able to hear that for what it is in other people. So I don't respond in a way that I don't need to, in an unnecessary mean way. You know what I mean?
If I can just, I'll alliterate very quickly with that. Be an encouragement, be an encourager to people, be an edifier, build people up, just help build. We tear so many folks down, build people up, and be an evangelist. Be somebody that gets the gospel to other people, whether it be in your life, and I think that's very important, whether it be with your lips, invite someone to church, invite someone to begin a relationship with Christ. I think that is the most important thing.
And I will add, even though I don't have any biblical degree, don't make assumptions about people.
Yep.
We don't know what they're going through.
Yep.
We don't know what kind of news they just got yesterday or an hour ago or a month ago that they're still reeling from.
Right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for your time today.
Merry Christmas. We appreciate having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Pastor Scott Torkko and Jayson Godsey with us as we bring you our final show before Christmas Day, Cadillac Unscripted. Join us next week, same time, same station, for some more local chat, sponsored by Independent Bank. It's Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY.
Merry Christmas.